Hello and welcome back, and today we want to compare two 2-bay NASs from QNAP. Now, if you have been looking for a brand new QNAP NAS these last few months, then chances are that these two devices have appeared on your radar. Both of them have been released within months of one another, and on the face of it, you might be wondering which one you should go for, because both of them are QNAP, they both use the QTS operating system, they're both NASs, they both take the same drives, and they're both 2-bays. Why on earth is there such a disparity between them, with a price difference between them that is quite significant? I mean, this device here arrives at around 175 quid if you include the tax but not the hard drives. And even if you do buy it and you think, oh, that'd be great, and you're considering the 253D, you suddenly notice that this device here is significantly more expensive, more than double that of the 230. So let's compare them, let's talk about them, and find out why exactly this one costs so much more. Because straight off the bat, the 253D is the better NAS of the two, and it is the more powerful, it is the faster, it is ultimately the better. But is it more than double the price better? Are you going to take advantage of that much hardware? And that's the point of today's video. Before we go any further though, let's also address what they can both do. They both arrive with support of QTS, the QNAP graphical user interface, and NAS software, and all of those applications that could be installed in the software, and the client apps for PC, Mac, and your mobile platforms, iOS and Android. They've both got surveillance solutions, they've both got multimedia solutions, they've both got backup solutions to create a complete backup strategy. They've both got download server solutions, iTunes solutions, they're audio, video, photo, AI-powered photo. They've both got great applications inside. They both also arrive with very competent processors. They both arrive with DDR4 memory. Ultimately, they both arrive with a great amount of software and hardware support on day one. But it's how you intend to use this device and how much you expect for your money, because they are priced differently for a reason. A lot of that comes down to the hardware more than the software, because it's how much the hardware can eke out of the software can eke out of the hardware that makes a difference between them. So case in point, and I'm sure it's already on screen, the 230 arrives with a Realtek ARM 64-bit processor. Now this is more about efficiency than power, something we talk about a lot in the world of NAS on a device that's going to be on for days, weeks, months, or even years at a time. Now that processor arrives at 1.4 gigahertz per core, and that 1.4 gigahertz per core that it presents to you is very useful if you're a single user, or less than 5 users using intermittently, or if you have less graphically geared things that you want to do. It supports 4K and 1080p transcoding, but when doing it, it will use a substantial amount of the internal hardware to do it. And remember, that's native transcoding. If you try to use this in Plex Media Server, it will play in Plex and it will use a lot of its resources to do it. But multi-users accessing media at the same time, it's going to be shaky. Transcoding, using the transcoding engine in Plex, just not really viable at all. And the same goes for that surveillance application. You're using the surveillance station application, not the newer generation one that we'll talk about in a bit. So you've got a few camera licenses there, and you don't have the graphical support on this that you might like. So a lot of the more flush things in QTS and handling of data is just not possible on the 230. It is a very good NAS. It's a great starter NAS, and if you're going to be backing up from lots of locations, or you just want to take advantage of the photo apps, this can do it. It's got support of that AI-powered QMaggie app, as well as multimedia console for photo, video, and music applications as well. But it's this device here and its CPU that really shines things. So the CPU in the 53D is the Intel Celeron J4125. It's a quad-core 2.0 GHz CPU that can be burst up to 2.7. And although both of them support DDR4, this has 2 gig that can't be upgraded because it's soldered to the main board. This has 4 gig of DDR4 memory that you can upgrade to 8. And that CPU has already got UHD Graphics 600, which means it supports the better surveillance platform QVR Pro, far more graphical, far more enterprise, and 8 camera licenses, but also Plex Media Server to a high degree, with Plex transcoding included as well. On top of that, you've got support of Linux Station, virtual machine platforms on this, and a better degree of support for Container Station. You've got HD Station as well, the dedicated HDMI portal application that runs parallel to the internet and network connectivity and all of those users that we'll talk about in a little bit. But ultimately, that CPU governs a lot of things, because although they're both 64-bit in architecture, an x86 is just a better performer overall, and also has a better handling of object-based GPU-supported applications, more visual and more graphically geared file handling. And again, multimedia streaming is going to be so much better on this. So although there is that enormous disparity in price, you have to remember it's because this device can support more active applications to a higher quality simultaneously than this. So you are paying for a better breadth and depth of QTS applications from QNAP. But continuing the subject of hardware, we can look at the rear of these devices. So if we look at them both on the rear, we can definitely see some serious differences there, because the 230 has got a 1 GBE LAN port, just a single 1 GBE, so 100 megs or so, 110 at a push network interface port, and then a USB 3 and a USB 2 port. Now the USB 3 and USB 2 ports on this device support things like external storage drives that you can use to add to this storage as an external drive, not as an expansion. There are also hardware RAID expansions such as the TR series that you can connect one. There's even a USB 2 port there, a USB 3 port there on the front. But the USB ports on this are largely geared towards either a single external storage drive over USB, or taking advantage of USB printers, UPSs, that sort of thing. But the other device, the 53D, has got the USB 3 on the front, another USB 3 here, and 3 USB 2s. I've never been particularly secret about my slight disdain for USB 2 these days, but there is still sort of a place for it. If you're going to use a UPS or a printer, USB 2 is all you need, because you're not really going to get the performance speed out of those from these devices. They're just looking for a ping pulse connection. Speed of USB 3 quality is just useless. On top of that, it does support keyboards, mice, Bluetooth dongles, wireless dongles, and a lot of things that aren't going to take advantage of USB 3 at this time. That said, QNAP do have a lot of USB 3 devices that connect to this, such as the USB 3 to 5 GBE adapter, such as the expansion devices in both the TL and TR series, both of which take advantage of USB 3. So having more ports there has more elements of expandability. And remember, those USB ports can work with that HDMI port there, which is the 4K 60 frames per second HDMI, to use the HD Station app for having a standalone PC, a standalone surveillance center, utilizing it as a Plex media server directly over HDMI unofficially, Kodi and stuff like that. You can run a lot of dedicated standalone terminal applications with a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse, and a whole graphical user interface to do that, something that CPU is also responsible for. So you have a lot of potential expandability in utilizations for this, with this device supporting a lot of different ways of interacting with your data. But on top of that, we've got these two LAN ports. Now they are 2.5 GBE in architecture, which means both of those ports individually will give you around up to 250 megabytes per second transmission with your data, more than the 100 on this, depending on the media you use, of course. You can link aggregate them as well to get up to 5 GBE or 500 megabytes per second at the very, very top. But again, it does depend on the storage media you use inside, because this is a 2-bay device. But still, nevertheless, there is a lot more throughput to play with, and use that in conjunction with a 10G, 5G or 2.5 GBE switch, or if you utilize that adapter from QNAP on your local PC, you can have a direct connection with this device with a theoretical maximum of 5 GBE. But it doesn't stop there, because then you've got the upgradability with that PCIe slot that allows you to access NVMe and SATA SSD caching to improve internal performance. It allows you to add a 10 GBE connection, so 1000 megabytes per second. And again, have an adapter on your PC or Mac system, boom, you've got a live editing machine at 1000 megabytes per second. Remember, 100. On top of that, you can have combo cards in the QM2 series to have a combination of NVMe cache and external 10 GBE. You can install the Wi-Fi 6 card they just announced that will allow you to have a Wi-Fi 6 powered NAS, and Wi-Fi 6 with that card lets you have wirelessly up to 240 megabytes per second wirelessly with a Wi-Fi switch, which is great for your internal networks and removing the internal bottleneck from your home or office. What I'm ultimately getting at here is between these two devices, this has a lower glass ceiling. So when you're using it, the extent to which you can use it is not as high as this. This provides a better performance on day one, and it will maintain that performance longer, and you can upgrade it later to extend its lifespan even further. This device has a 3-year manufacturer's warranty, and this has 2. They do that for a reason, and of course a little bit of that is factored into the price and the build quality. There's still no avoiding that a 3-year warranty on this is still a lovely little touch, and although it's more than double the price of this, it's because you aren't just paying for its power. You are paying for its power, its breadth, and its depth of that power to support multiple users at once and multiple applications at once, and that is how they justify that price difference. And if you can stretch it, or you do think you're going to use that level of breadth of utilization, then I do recommend going for that 5.3D, because between the two of them you will get a better performance overall between these two devices, with this one just bringing more to the party and this one being a very good NAS, but it's a question of whether you going to need more down the line. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We're going to be comparing a lot of the more budget solutions with more powerful solutions. It's something I've generally never really done, because whenever I compare budget and power solutions, the result is always the same. The powerful ones are obviously better, but some of you don't care which is better. You want to know which one's best for the job. So I'm going to try to cater more of these versus videos about budget v power, so you can work out what exactly that money gives you, and are you just paying for the feeling of power rather than an actual power. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Do click like if you have, click subscribe to learn more, and don't forget in the links in the description will take you to Spam, where you can find out more about these devices and get the best deals, or NAS Compares, where we have lots of reviews and comparisons moving forward. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.